Hello, gamers from around the world. This is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the World of Gaming. And as always, I host this show with my good friend, and today, a very well-dressed good friend, Wandering Dutch. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Yes, I'm doing good. I haven't had the opportunity to get undressed and not look like a corporate man today, so I am still dressed in the office. But all good, all good. I'm looking forward to this conversation. It shall be a fun one.
Oh yeah. It shall indeed. It shall indeed. And I also want to shout out the chat. It's already filling up with a lot of familiar names. Welcome to you guys, and of course also everyone who listens after the fact on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. Dutch, did you know that we are very popular in Sweden? Apple Podcast sent me a review of our stats there, and apparently we are the third highest ranking entertainment podcast on on iTunes in Sweden.
Oh, nice. So I'm doing well with my Nordic brethren then.
Indeed. I take that as a compliment for you. And no, that's awesome, man. That's really awesome. So shout out to everyone who listens on podcast services around the globe. And we were just having a brief chat before the show. Some sad news just broke. The Queen of England died, and we don't want to make it a big topic here, but we want to give, of course, our condolences to the family. Whether you like the royals or not, obviously I'm not a big fan, but it's
they are
being
technically German anyway, Boxy. So come on.
True. But still, a human being died. She was a mother, a grandmother, a grandmother, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the family. Rest in peace. But with that, I want to transition over to our regular show. We are having I'm really looking forward to this today, not just because we have some really interesting stuff to talk about. Of course, we will get into the entire Jim Ryan thing and how it's completely inadequate to keep Call of Duty for a couple of years on PlayStation. We will have a discussion about the Cyberpunk DLCs, the showcases that will happen over the weekend. Xbox got some new features. We will talk about that. We have some statements about AAA development and how that goes these days from Matt Booty. We will get into that and a couple of other smaller news. So there's a lot exciting things to talk about. And I haven't really played much over the last week because I was away. Actually, I wasn't sure whether I could make the podcast here today.
I just drove.
Yeah. So, but now vacation time is over. I'm back for the entire year, and I just drove back. I had a 6-hour car drive behind me, but I'm glad I made it. But man, that's why we also haven't had a chat in almost a week, almost since the last podcast. So how have you been, man?
Yeah, been good. I've just been obviously podcasting myself, and gaming and work, usual stuff. But yeah, again, we've had some awesome announcements this week. One awesome announcement for me specifically that saves me money in the short term. On my highly anticipated game that makes it essentially 3 or 4 out of my most anticipated games the remainder of this year are all on Game Pass now. So super happy.
You're talking, of course, about
Metal
Hellsinger. Metal Hellsinger,
yeah.
Good stuff,
Awesome stuff. But yeah, other than that, been back into Battlefield recently, and just enjoying a little bit more game time again. So that's on and off, depending on how busy you get and how tired you are in nighttime. What about yourself?
Man, I've been playing a little bit on the Switch, of course, because I was traveling. I started another playthrough of Link's Awakening.
Okay.
Zelda Link's Awakening, the remake. It's so good. It's really one of the best Zeldas ever made, and the remake is fantastic, and it's just a lot of fun. So yeah, that's mainly what I've been playing. I did one match of Age of Empires 4 earlier, just before the show.
Just sneaked one
But
in.
I sneaked one in and I lost. But yeah, I need to practice a little bit over the weekend again to get my groove back, and then we're back on H4. Yeah, man. And other than that, I have to definitely finish Destroy All Humans 2.
Yeah.
I obviously stopped playing that. Went went on the family trip, so yeah, can't wait to get back there. And then yeah, I have to go back to work, man. That's how it goes when vacations are over. But
Yeah.
anyway, again, welcome. The chat is filling up. We already have more than 30 people here watching us live, having awesome conversations. If you're here, say hi in chat. We have such a welcoming community, such fantastic people there, and yeah, just say hi, and we will get into the news of the week. So, yeah, man, what did I miss? What was there something going on?
Yeah. Few things.
One or two minor things broke over the week. So, in case anyone hasn't heard yet what happened yesterday, Jim Ryan gave an interview to gamesindustry.biz, basically calling out Phil Spencer. Earlier this year, Phil Spencer had an interview with The Verge, and Phil Spencer said to The Verge that, and I just read the quote now. In January, we provided a signed agreement to Sony to guarantee Call of Duty on PlayStation with feature and content parity for at least several more years beyond the current Sony contract, an offer that goes well beyond the typical gaming industry agreements. So that's what Phil said a few weeks ago to The Verge, and now, yeah, Jim Ryan responded. I just want to read that response as well before we get into our thoughts about this, and I think we both have a lot to say about this.
Yeah.
So Jim, good old Jimbo from PlayStation, had to say the following. I hadn't intended to comment on what I understood to be a private business discussion, but I feel the need to set the record straight because Phil Spencer brought this into the public forum. Microsoft has only offered for Call of Duty to remain on PlayStation for 3 years after the current agreement between Activision and Sony ends. After almost 20 years of Call of Duty on PlayStation, their proposal was inadequate on many levels and failed to take account of the impact on our gamers. We want to guarantee PlayStation gamers to continue to have the highest quality Call of Duty experience, and Microsoft's proposal undermines this principle. So, the Twitter streets have been wild with this, rightfully so. Before I give my thoughts on this, Dutch, I want to hear from you. What do you say about this? What do you think? What's wrong with Jim?
What's wrong? What's wrong is the perfect statement. There isn't anything right with that statement, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So first of all, Jim Ryan obviously full of hypocrisy there, and also falsities about caring about his gamers. If he cared about his gamers, he wouldn't increase the cost of the console by $50. If he cared about the gamers, he wouldn't increase the cost of games by $10.
That's a fantastic point. Let me briefly say something on that, because you said that to me in the green room as well.
Yeah,
and it's a fantastic thing. I really like PlayStation, but I really don't like Jim. And it's so sad that as of late we always have to complain about PlayStation. It's really not that we can report many exciting things, good things. Yeah, they have been quiet. They didn't announce anything beyond God of War. We know about Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine from Insomniac, but that's about it. They
Yeah.
increase game prices. They straight out lied to their consumers. They increase console prices. It's really sad. So yeah, as of late, I don't feel that PlayStation has the gamer in mind. So you're absolutely spot on here. It's definitely not about the gamer, but he tried to emphasize that in his statement. So,
Yeah.
but please continue.
Yeah, and to further on from that, when he mentions the gamer, is he just concerned about his gamers, not gamers as a whole, as a vast majority? If he was concerned about gamers as a vast majority, then he should be concerned about the many millions of people that he's blocking from playing Final Fantasy on other consoles, or many others that he's
Yeah.
blocking from Street Fighter V on playing on many consoles, of which is now eventually being released into the public for Street Fighter 6. But you don't see that, and you don't see others kind of mentioning that. There has been, thankfully, a lot of articles that have come out and said and pointed out the hypocrisy, but you have to call out Jeff Keighley here, who's just playing dumb again on Twitter and pretending like that doesn't happen. But it does, because it's locked down to a multi-year exclusivity agreement to prevent it, just on the sole purpose of preventing it from being on Xbox. Nothing else, which is why it's on PC. So if he cares about gamers, then he needs to withdraw that. On another side of things as well, the Microsoft have never ever stated, and you can look through as many statements as you want, they never ever stated that the game would remain indefinitely on the platform. They never once guaranteed that it would remain indefinitely on the platform. They always
Let's
said
do
we
some
will.
math here.
Yeah.
We know that they have 3 more Call of Duty games under contract. So
Yeah.
that's Warzone 2 in 2023.
Yeah.
Rumor has it that there's no mainline Call of Duty in 23. That would make the 24 and 25 Call of Duty under contract. So 26 in 2026, that would be the first non-contracted Call of Duty
Yeah.
as
So
we
it would
know right now.
effectively take it up to roughly, under contracted terms, it would take it up to maybe 28, 29 by the time the Microsoft's extension, or at least
Exactly.
guaranteed.
Exactly.
Because all of they said is it's essentially a rolling review. So it's 3 years and then rolling review. It would be their IP, it's their property, so they would review the contract and then discuss another agreement. Sony,
Agreed. Yeah.
if they want to talk about inadequate, they certainly haven't put inadequate contracts in place for Final Fantasy. I will keep bringing that up because, of course, it's kind of surrounding the whole hypocrisy on the movement there. It's just a fallacy from Jim Ryan to think that the industry owes them something. When they've done something that is so well, they continue to do things that are so anti-consumer. I'm not going to go so pro-consumer, but anti-consumer, and have done for the entirety of this generation. Not even just the last gen, the entirety of this generation. False marketing. We can also bring that up as well to get people to buy the console in the first place by advising games were releasing on launch that they knew were not releasing on launch. That is false advertisement. We can also have a look at the lawsuits of all the many faults that they were aware of with the consoles, that have now been revised twice in order to try and fix those issues, and that they didn't advise with the consoles at launch. Of course, including the rest mode issue, which still hasn't been permanently fixed yet, and still remains a worry for those with the initial consoles. So in terms of the statement as a whole, it's just find it highly hypocritical from Jim Ryan to come out and make a statement. And to be honest, it's not the first time he's done this either, because he's made some pretty wild statements in and out without Sony's authority. And specifically on this particular matter, the only thing I would say to end it off is Jim needs to be careful what he wishes for. because if he wants to air dirty laundry in public, with regards details of agreements, etc., I'm sure Microsoft will be more than happy to provide as much information on the competition's exclusivities agreements to the regulators in order for them to have a better understanding of the market. Now, this is what is happening with the tech industry and the market as a whole at the moment is regulators want to understand the industry in order to make further decisions on future purchasing or purchases, not just with Microsoft, but as the sector as a whole. If Sony aren't careful with the way that they're managing this, it's going to backfire and not in their favor.
That's what I'm so worried about. With all the things that happened over the last, let's say, 2 years, from false advertisement, as you mentioned, like you all remember we believe in generations. God of War's got to be a launch window title, and all these things where they simply straight out lied to the consumers. Then we have like these weird statements like, "Who wants to play old games? We don't believe in subscription services." All these kind of things, and then we have the business side of things with the increased game prices, with the increased console prices, and all that stuff. There's just really so much negative press going around PlayStation over the last 2 years. I feel like if they let Jim run wild, he could really hurt the PlayStation brand, and no one would benefit from that. We all want a strong competition, and we want a great PlayStation, a good PlayStation like we had in the PS4 era, where they had a great platform, where they delivered great content. We all want that PlayStation, but we don't want that PlayStation that Jim turns it into. But a brand name can be hurt easily, and I feel like Jim is really going down a road that might hurt the PlayStation brand more than he thinks he does hurt it right now with all these kind of things. Yeah.
I mean,
Hang on one second.
The statement that he wrote where he said he's concerned about the gamers because of Call of Duty's length. He's not. He's concerned about the bottom line. He's concerned about losing the card money.
Absolutely.
The problem they will have is I guarantee if you look at the finer details of the agreement to keep Call of Duty on the console, it would be vastly reduced earnings potentials for them to have Call of Duty on the console, which will be the stickler. It won't be the time. It'll be the fact that they won't get a 30% slice of that anymore.
Exactly. Let me briefly shout out Splendiferous, who sends in the first super chat of the day. Thank you so much for the support, man. He says, "Two very classy gents. Love these guys. Hit the like button." Yeah, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, that would be absolutely awesome. If you like the show, if you enjoy the content, just hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything. It's completely anonymous, and it helps out these smaller channels a lot. So that would be greatly appreciated. And by the way, Dutch, you're getting a lot of compliments about the classy outfit. So for those who came in late, let everyone know why you're so well dressed here today.
Yeah, I'm a corporate businessman, so this is unfortunately my business dress. So yeah, got home late, didn't have a chance to get changed, so you're gonna have to deal with corporate Dutch today.
Corporate Dutch. You know what's the great thing about being an engineer in a big corporation? No one cares how you look. This has really changed. Like 10 years ago, I had also to dress up in a suit when I go to work. And nowadays, no one cares anymore how the engineers look. Of course, the salesmen and the marketing guys and those run in the corporate suits, but I just go to work in a shirt and with the jeans, and I love it. But we are not here to talk about dress code at work. We are here to talk about Jim Ryan. Listen, man, you brought up a point, and I want to elaborate on that a little bit. Jim complaining about exclusive content on potential exclusive content on Xbox just feels like such a hypocrite. Like, really, you mentioned it, Final Fantasy VII, but that's not all. Look at Call of Duty right now. They always get content first. Certain maps are locked behind PlayStation stuff like that. Has been going on for years. Hogwarts Legacy, content locked behind. The Avengers, content locked behind. Forspoken, even Xbox games, current Xbox games, Deathloop, Ghostwire, locked behind the exclusive PlayStation paywall. And so it is beyond me how he can come out, complain about potentially Call of Duty going exclusive on Xbox. And like we said, the offer from Phil was obviously not that bad. He himself said it's well beyond what's the norm in the gaming industry. It would basically make Call of Duty definitely a multi-platform title this generation. By the end of this generation, 28, 29, that would be the point when Xbox would reevaluate, not necessarily make it, but reevaluate what's going on. I feel like complaining about this publicly. I don't know what his intention was. He must have known that every normal thinking person would see this as a backfire. PlayStation being that platform that is well known for locking exclusive content behind. What do you think? What was his thought when you put out a statement like that?
It's just strange. I don't understand what he was thinking at that point, because he's got to understand, like, one of the things the regulator said was it could impact the launch of the next generation consoles. And yes, from Sony's standpoint, it will, because they cannot market Call of Duty going forward.
Yep.
And that is the concern that Sony have, or we won't be able to market it. Well, you're right, because you don't own it. But you have Destiny, so why don't you make the most of that? You have one of the largest IPs that are currently
Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You have two mammoth IPs. Spider-Man is considerably larger as a household name than Call of Duty is.
Absolutely.
But Destiny is also an absolute juggernaut when it comes to shooters.
Absolutely.
Like, they have so many juggernauts, and they're complaining that one multi-platform juggernaut they cannot advertise for anymore, and that's essentially the be-all and end-all. They're scared that as soon as Microsoft get that announcement out with Call of Duty on the box art of the console, they're scared that is going to be this flick of the switch. They're scared at that point the casuals will then just flock straight over to the other, but it doesn't work like that. Sony are really in the past if they think that is the case, that all of these gamers will just all of a sudden flock over to another console because it's advertised on another box. Like Microsoft have said, it's going to be like Minecraft. It will be everywhere, always, and we'll continue to bring out new ones. Yes, there's going to be continual new agreements for it, because they're going to revise the offers and revise the contractual agreements every 3 years. That's normal business practice. You don't have a permanent, there's no such thing as a permanent contract. You never continue to have a permanent agreement with anybody. Doesn't exist. In any business.
Outside of these weird Sony Spider-Man rights, those seem to kind of be indefinitely. But I agree, 100%. You nailed it. So it's obvious that Microsoft is gonna evaluate certain things over time, and especially with such a big IP that is Call of Duty. Now, I've seen a lot of people, especially from the Sony fanboy section, they said, well, Microsoft obviously lied, because they said, well, we are going to keep it multi-plat. And now it turns out Phil only offered 3 years. They make out Phil to be the liar. What do you say about that?
He never mentioned the term. He said several years. 3 years is several years.
Yeah. It
I mean,
is.
he just all he did was not say the exact amount of years,
Mm.
because that is again a private contractual agreement between two parties. So all Jim Ryan has done there is broken NDA.
Yeah. And that is really the weird part. It is like Microsoft made that statement to The Verge, and by the way, also to the Brazilian government, when that entire thing. I can't remember how the institution was called in Brazil, but
Yeah.
you guys know what I mean. He made that statement then publicly. Now, Jim coming out, calling out Phil like that publicly. Do you feel like now Phil is gonna take the gloves off? Because like that was my first instinct was like
Oh
when
yeah,
I
yeah.
would be in
I
Phil's.
feel like Microsoft at this point can just throw them under the bus.
Yeah,
And I think they will do, because, of course, we've seen a little snippet of that with Brazilian authorities when Microsoft brought up
yeah,
Final Fantasy and others. And I think they'll just do that to all the big regulators. I think they'll just say, listen, if you want to know the complete truth of the market, we'll give you the complete truth of the market. Here's also some information from the case with Apple and Epic with regards to Sony's agreements,
yeah,
which came out in that court case. If you want to talk about actual dragging through the mud, we've got facts and facts for days. So it's I think it's just Jim Ryan's just causing so many issues for Sony. And again,
yeah,
this isn't the first time when we're talking about the abortion rights issue. He came out with his ridiculous quote then, and he shouldn't have. He should have kept his
mm,
mouth shut. Or,
yeah,
he should have, really. He should have just either kept his mouth shut or said something a little bit more. It's hard. It's hard to say in that position, but the statements he makes, he's just putting banana skins on the floor for Sony that they have to dodge every
yeah.
2 minutes.
Indeed, indeed. Um, it is really really weird because I feel like that's something that's not only gonna hurt the relationship in between Sony and Microsoft, but literally if you are Andrew Wilson, CEO of EA, Yves Guillemot, Ubisoft. I don't know the guy who's in charge at Warner Brothers, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All these other people in charge, Bowser, of course, from Nintendo and so on. They all have some sort of collaboration, working relationships, and so on. Making these kind of statements publicly, really, actually, literally calling out Phil. If you read Phil's statement, he really didn't call out Sony per se. He just said, "Well, we made an offer to Sony."
Yeah.
That's really there's a difference, and he just comes out, "Way, that's inadequate. It's an inadequate offer on many levels from Phil Spencer." And I'm just replying because Phil made it publicly. It's like really uh, such an unprofessional behavior. So I
And
feel like,
it's the timing's weird as well, because he made the comment public
yeah,
months ago, realistically, and has only reiterated those comments again to the CMA,
yeah,
and
true,
in which
true,
they highlighted Minecraft. Now, Sony
yeah,
obviously don't see Minecraft as some kind of threat, but Minecraft still continues to be the highest selling video game ever.
absolutely, absolutely. It's almost every month in the top 10.
Yeah.
It's insane. Minecraft is a juggernaut.
And if you use that as a placeholder as to what to expect with Call of Duty, which is essentially what they're saying, Minecraft is essentially what we're going to do with Call of Duty, would be it remains everywhere, it has
Yeah,
multi-platform, it has cross-play, cross-saves. Not only all that, but the newest version of that game that came out, Dungeons, was also
mm,
on every platform.
true,
They
true.
didn't have to, but
Yeah.
they chose to.
What about Minecraft Legends? Is that coming to multiple platforms?
I would imagine so. But what's mine? Oh yeah, yes it is. Yeah, actually, Minecraft Legends is everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. No, you're absolutely spot on, and I feel like that what was his intention? Is suddenly this public statement, is this gonna help him to prevent Call of Duty
I
going?
think he thinks it will,
And
but
I
it's
can't believe that. As a CEO of PlayStation, one of the biggest
the other
entertainment
angle
brands
as a
there is.
salesman. The other angle I see it from is that he's using it as a method of which to try and drive up the contractual terms.
Hmm, that's a very good point. Make public pressure
Public
on
pressure to try
on
and drive the
public.
terms up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what do you think? Is Phil gonna take the gloves off? So what I obviously I'm just the armchair CEO here in my basement, and
Yeah,
have no idea how to run a multi-billion dollar business unit. But my first reaction would be, of course, okay, this offer is now off the tables. We're gonna honor the contract, but 3 years or after the next three Call of Duties, if we are not forced by the CMA or the FTC or some other institution, this deal is off. This deal is off, and there's a lot more than Call of Duty to Activision Blizzard. We are
yep,
also talking about Diablo 4 is coming out next year. Nothing has been announced in terms of like marketing deals or anything like that. We know it was obviously intended as a multi-platform title.
yeah,
If there's no real marketing contract and it is just publishing contract, dude, you can easily take that off, and that would be a massive loss. We're talking Overwatch.
yeah,
We are talking about the next survival Blizzard game. You can say about Blizzard what you want, and we talked about this multiple times here on the show, how we disagree with Bobby Kotick and a lot of the stuff, the harassment and everything that is going on. If you look at Blizzard in particular, because Activision has been nothing does nothing else than Call of Duty these days. But if you look at Blizzard, they don't put out many games, but
yeah,
once they put out the games, they're massive. They're usually massive successes. Diablo 3 was massive, Overwatch was massive, and the survival game will also be massive. So, World of Warcraft, of course, obviously. Um, so, Jim is also jeopardizing all these kind of games that also were kind of very good candidates as being still multi-platform titles. Do you think he has put those now on the table again?
I think he's showing that he doesn't care about anything but Call of Duty,
Mm,
which is a major mistake. Major mistake.
indeed, indeed.
Um, and it's weird that they didn't show this level of care when Microsoft purchased Bethesda. With the likes of Starfield and Elder Scrolls, who are absolute
Yeah,
juggernauts. Like, they didn't care.
yeah,
Like, oh, we don't know. And then they were like, Starfield's exclusive. Not a word, not a peep,
yeah,
not a peep. Call of Duty, oh, up in arms, up in
yeah.
arms, because you're not getting your slice anymore. But it's
It's for
there's
him, for obviously for Sony, this is kind of like their um, live service game, even though it's not really a live service game. It's an annual game, but it kind of is for them.
but
It's
they
like
but
each
they
and every
also
year.
again they still have Destiny, they still have
Yeah,
Apex, they
yeah.
still have all of these awesome multi-platform,
Battlefield,
yeah,
Rainbow
Battlefield,
Six.
live service games,
Yeah,
all of these.
Fortnite.
Yeah. Fortnite,
Yeah,
which
it's
is the
just
largest of all of them. No one's making that
exactly.
exclusive.
Yeah,
Um, and they'll probably be getting a massive cut on that. But again, I don't think the difference I think between Jim and Phil is that Phil won't say anything about this publicly, not to that extent. He won't go into the details, but he will be putting a lot of documents in place behind closed doors.
yeah,
They'll have a proper corporate. The difference between Sony and Microsoft is Microsoft's statements are completely thought out by lawyers. Jim's statement was not. That is not a statement that has been completely thought out or proofread by a lawyer before it was made.
yeah. And if not the lawyer, at least like the communication department, like
Yeah,
multiple people reading through statements, rephrasing certain wordings and stuff like that. All that did not happen, and quite frankly, it happens a lot with Jim these days. Um, so yeah, man, this is something. This is something. So, what do you expect? How this will continue? We have heard that the CMA deadline is now over, but we have not heard what was the outcome. We had Luke on here last week, if you
Yeah,
remember. He's a lawyer in the UK, actually dealing with similar mergers with the CMA, and he
yeah.
explained to us very well in detail. So if you want to learn more about, and you missed the episode, and you want to learn more about how the CMA actually works and how they approve these kind of deals, I highly recommend to go back and listen to last week's show. So we learned that Microsoft got a 5-day deadline to respond to the concerns that the CMA has, and after the 5-day deadline, they decide whether to go into phase 2 or not. Luke also very well explained what phase 2 actually means. But yeah, so the deadline is over. We haven't heard. Are we going into phase 2 or not? What do you think?
Oh yeah,
Um,
I think it's already into phase two personally.
you
Um,
feel like
yeah,
that? Okay,
100%.
okay.
And I think, and this is where it can go, and this is where it goes into Microsoft's favor, to be honest, because
Mm,
in phase two, it's essentially negotiation stage.
yeah,
Um, and they can negotiate, and Sony don't have a say in that negotiation. No matter how
yeah,
much Jim Ryan kicks up a fuss, that negotiation is between the CMA and Xbox. The
yeah,
CMA can say, "Oh well, you need to guarantee it for at least 4 years or 5 years," and they go, "Right, okay, we'll guarantee it for 4 years.
yeah.
No problem. That's it."
So you think when when we look at this, is either the
Because there's no
CMA
at
or the
the end of the
FTC?
day. I was going to say at the end of
Yeah,
the day as well, there is no court of law in the world that will force Microsoft to sign a permanent agreement, a
mm,
permanent contract to keep something on an opposing platform permanently. There has never been an agreement in the history of man from the point of view of a sale, i.e., a contractual agreement between two parties, where it is we are permanently working together. That isn't something that happens. You will always have a timed agreement. It's
yeah,
always timed agreement, and then it's reviewed further down the line and then extended. This goes for everybody's contracts. This goes a lot of the time for a business contract.
yeah. True.
So it's
Yeah,
it's not
you
something,
bring
and
up a
it
lot.
wouldn't. You get
Yeah.
into it. You get if you go into a courtroom and Sony says, "Oh well, 3 years is not enough," and Microsoft says, "Okay, well, 4 or 5 years. What's it to be?" And
See,
they
the
say, "Oh
thing
no, we want
is,
it permanently."
I don't think that Sony will be present in the courtroom
Oh no, they
when.
wouldn't. I'm saying if it got to a courtroom, for instance, as an example, and
Yeah.
Sony were trying to argue a length of a contract,
Gotcha.
in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no courtroom in the world would they agree
Mm,
to a permanent agreement. It's
yeah,
it's never been done, so it's not going to happen now for the purpose of a game. Like they're not going to say, "Oh no, they have to have this on there permanently forever."
yeah.
It's not something they'd laugh that out the courtroom. They would.
Yeah.
From a
True.
lawyer's perspective, they'd be like, "No, that's impractical." that
True.
then that then prevents competition. How does that improve competition?
That's exactly the point, and I feel like um, this just tells you where the state that Sony is in right now with the CEO Jim Ryan, and I feel like Sony really needs that competition right now. They need that kick in the ball to wake up and actually lose some of their market share. I my wish at the end of this generation would that we have at least parity between Xbox and PlayStation. That's when both of them will always try to do their best. I also don't want to come out want Xbox to come out as the quote unquote winning company with a market share 5-1 like Sony has it right now here
Yeah,
across Europe. Yeah. I don't want that for Xbox either. I want them to be on par. But for Sony right now, they really give us the gamers the feeling like, okay, they let us know that they have the market dominance. In the US, not so much. We've seen that with the console price increase. The US, Xbox is way stronger, but the rest of the world, Um, and really, Sony needs this kick in the balls to wake up and put the consumer and gamer again in the focus, just like Jim said in his statement that he is concerned about the gamer on PlayStation. No, he isn't. No, he really isn't with this kind of deal. So I wonder, really, like, is the CMA or the FTC, for that matter? As of late, we always talk about CMA, but there's also the FTC in the US, and of course, the European Union and their regulatories that have to approve this deal. You feel like any one of these um, is any one of these companies, pardon me, these institutions gonna put a like how do you say that in English? Will they force Microsoft to make Call of Duty a multiplat title for at least, I don't know, X amount of years? Is this really something that will come out, or will they still find kind of a gentleman agreement with Sony?
I think
What
they'll
do you
come into a
think?
middle ground agreement, to be honest. But I think at the same time, the CMA, Sony won't have a say in that regardless. Ultimately, the CMA don't care about the percentage of profits that Sony earn or
Yeah,
anything like that. Ultimately, they'll be more concerned about the competition and whether or not it is anti-competitive. I think it'll be more of a middle ground. Okay, well, at least guarantee that it's going onto the system for X amount of years, whether that be 3 or 4, whatever it is. But also guarantee a renewal of that contract and a revision of these terms every so many years.
so many years. Yeah,
It could just be like you have to guarantee negotiations will commence on the renewal of that particular contract at X time every time. So at least then you can negotiate the terms from that point. But none of those terms will involve the marketing rights for Call of Duty. So no matter
yeah,
how long they want that on there, the ultimate problem that they're going to have is that the marketing rights is ultimately what they always paid for, and
yeah,
they can no longer have. Like, the only reason Call of Duty is so successful on PlayStation is because of the marketing rights.
yeah.
And that's it.
And yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um,
Because
that's
it's
what
it's
Sony
been
did really
associated
well
with
over
the
the
brand.
last years.
Yeah,
They marketed it like it's basically a PlayStation exclusive. They did the
yeah,
same with like Destiny and other games that were actually multi-platform titles, but people really thought, "Hey, that's an exclusive."
yeah.
Yeah. So
So yeah, I
here,
think the CMA.
Exclusive.
yeah,
I
that
think the
was what I
CMA
was.
they'll be looking to get an agreement in place, like a guarantor, essentially like a guarantee or a guarantor that it will remain on the platform for X amount of years. But they don't care about the actual terms of that between
Yeah.
Sony and Xbox. They couldn't care. That's not,
I
as
feel
long as
like
they've got a guarantee it remains on the
mm,
system. They don't care.
I feel like a lot of these discussions revolve around Call of Duty as of late, and Microsoft kind of take that probably as okay. That's basically the thing we have to, well, kind of give to regulatories and the competition, um, at least for a couple of years. Call of Duty being multiplat, but like I said earlier, the way how Jimbo attacked Phil in public is so unprofessional that I would be truly surprised if Microsoft wouldn't leverage all the other IP that they got as now being more aggressively exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem, of course. Yeah. Like I said, I don't know what the status of Diablo, what kind of contracts have been signed. I know that it has been announced as a multi-platform title. But hey, if there are no binding contracts, things can change. If Sony plays hardball with Call of Duty, I feel like Microsoft will eventually make use of their um of their, yeah, well, bigger arm now
Yeah.
in with other games and other IPs. So Man, great discussion to kick the show off. I see there are a lot of strong opinions also in chat from the community, which I love. It is a controversial topic, but I feel like most people agree that
Yeah,
this is just kind of embarrassing. And yeah, we are all gonna be looking forward to see what will now come out from the CMA. Like I said, deadline is over. I expect some news there coming really, really soon.
yeah,
And then we shall see whether this goes into deeper investigations or not. Quick shout out to the 80 people that watch us live here right now. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you enjoy this program, it would be absolutely awesome of you to hit the like button. And if you haven't already, also subscribe to the channel. It really helps us little shows out. And I couldn't be more thankful for the support you guys show here. Yeah, man. Dutch, do you have anything else to say on the subject of Phil and Jim fighting it out, or well, at least Jim trying to fight it out with Phil? I
No,
don't think.
I fully assume this is going to be it's not going to be the last we'll hear of it. Put it this way, it's going to be an interesting few weeks and months.
Indeed. The next couple of months will be very interesting. I have no doubt that the deal will go through regardless.
Yeah,
And whether Call of Duty will be for 3, 4, 5 years multiplied, it really doesn't matter. Xbox gamers are getting all the Activision Blizzard games day one into Game Pass. That's the important thing. That's where we benefit way more than from exclusivity. But exclusives are important. They give an identity to your platform, and Xbox is lacking that at the moment. So certain exclusives, and if it's only for a certain amount of time or with already announced multiplayer platform titles, I could also see like add-on content being first on Xbox and stuff like that. Xbox could really leverage that, and it would help to just lower that market share and bring Sony again in the position where they have to fight actually for the wallet of consumers. And it just, like I said last week, it feels like they abuse their market dominance outside of the
and they
US.
still are. This year
And
specifically, they've kind of taken it for granted and just expect people to do everything.
yeah,
They raise the
exactly.
prices on the subscription service. They raise the prices on the console. They raise the prices on games. They haven't had an event. They're still not having an event. There's
By the
no
way, I
news.
heard,
They're super silent. They're kind of just expecting people to just take what they're given, and not demand better. And when people like us demand better from them, you get called out by the corporate chieftains that like to protect their favorite corporation in plastic box. But they have to be called out. They're far from perfect, and there's a lot that they need to improve. Just because they create some absolutely awesome games does not mean that they cannot also be anti-consumer. There's people seem
indeed,
to kind of get that mixed up. Just because you make a great game doesn't mean you're not also being an anti-consumer company, which they are.
Indeed. I couldn't have said it better. Yeah, man. Interesting times we're living in, and I have the feeling that we will talk about the Activision Blizzard acquisition more than once again on this on this show. But for today, I want to move over to something else.
Yes.
A couple of other awesome things have surfaced this week. Some bigger news, some smaller news. Some smaller. Let's start with something smaller because you mentioned marketing rights of Call of Duty, and guess who got a new a promotion? Aaron Greenberg from the Xbox department is now corporate vice president of marketing at Xbox Gaming. So congratulations to Aaron from us here, from the world of gaming. Man, do you think this will change anything?
Not really. I think obviously he's earned it. He's a great guy. I obviously messaged him the other day and said it personally to him as well, and obviously said thanks. But he's an awesome guy. He's well deserved. He puts in a lot of hard work behind the scenes. He's been there for God knows how long now. It's decade, 2 decades or something now, since the start of Xbox really. He's been there since essentially day one, and he's worked his way up. And those who, yes, certain people are going to hate on him because he loves the company he works for, and you can see he loves the company he works for, and that's the difference. But he also loves his job. He loves interacting with fans. He loves meeting new people. It is the perfect role for him, and he knows how to go about it. He knows how to kind of interact with the fans and have fun with them, and have a little joke every now and again. And people can see that as toxic, but he's just poking fun. And if he's hyped for a game like he was when Crash Bandicoot was, obviously is his main profile picture.
Yeah.
Essentially him just saying like, I'm hyped because we've got Crash. And everyone was just like, oh, that's so toxic just because you've got blah, blah. It's like, no, he's just a gamer at the end of the day. Of course he's hyped. These companies, his company, the company he's worked for 2 decades that he helped essentially start Xbox with, has just bought a major franchise that he loves. Of course he's going to be hyped.
And then he's excited, and he loves to share that with the community. And it's not just Aaron. It's like a lot of executives are so approachable in the Xbox brand. And I feel like this is really special about Xbox in gaming. Nintendo doesn't have that. Sony obviously doesn't have that. But we can see not just Aaron being out on the streets, on social media, and at the gaming events, but we have also Larry Herb, we have Phil Spencer himself, we have met Sarah Bond.
Well,
and all these.
On that note as well, there was a Sea of Thieves fest created in the UK that Xbox Mick went to, and they didn't have to, but pretty much all of the developers, the main developers and the studio heads for Sea of Thieves at Ray, went to the festival and just spent the day there and had fun and met all the fans and things. You don't see that on Sony's side. You don't see these private festivals that have been created by fans be attended by the creators of the game.
Yeah. See, Siki here in chat says he met Phil at the Xbox Showcase this year. It's just this is what I mean. The Xbox community actually has like a connection towards the people working at Xbox, and that just makes it special. And you can sometimes really tell that also in the community itself. It's when I always say on Twitter, like, we have the most welcoming community here. This is what I mean. Yeah, it's just people love the brand because you kind of have a personal relationship towards certain people that work there. So yeah, not the biggest topic of the week, but I just wanted to mention it and give a shout out to Aaron. Congratulations. Now, just one thing here, being now the vice president of marketing at Xbox, just start marketing also outside of the US and the UK, mainland Europe needs some advertisement for that fantastic product.
I'll be putting in some private words.
There you go. You guys heard it here. That just got to put in a good word, man. Cyberpunk, and I just want to throw some footage of Cyberpunk. Hang on, I always mess up the overlays when I switch to the footage. There we go. Yeah, Cyberpunk had a stream this week, and they actually announced add-on content, not DLC, but add-on content. It's called Phantom Liberty. It's coming in 2023. V is gonna join the police. That was obvious from the little teaser trailer. And like I said, it will come in 2023, and it will be the only major content add-on for the game. If you guys remember, The Witcher had 2 major add-ons. Um, Blood and Wine, and what was the first one? I'm blanking on the name right now.
I think it's because Blood of Mine was that good. Everyone forgets the first one.
But the first one was actually also really well. I love the little tidbits where they introduced the the main antagonist. I don't
Yeah.
want to spoil anything, but the main antagonist
Yeah.
in that DLC was actually part of the main game at the very beginning. You just had no idea that you ever met him because you meet so many characters. But it's the first one was really good. Now, man, the chat knows Heart of Stone. Yeah, that's it.
all.
That's it. Thank you, guys. So yeah, Cyberpunk is only gonna have one add-on. It's the one coming in 2023 called Phantom Liberty. Now, if it's okay, I'm gonna give my thoughts this time first.
Yes.
I really liked Cyberpunk. We've had the discussion. It's a fantastic game if you can see past the rough launch and the
issues, yeah.
bugs and the issues and everything. The game itself is actually really, really good. It's a fantastic RPG. I had a blast with this, so I can't wait for new content there. But I gotta say, like 23 is probably the worst idea to launch add-on content for that game. Like, I feel 23 is gonna be the busiest year gaming has ever seen. There are, like, each and every month, 2 to 3 major AAA releases,
Yeah.
at least in the first half of the next year, and I doubt that the second half will be that differently. Like, 23 is gonna be the most crowded year gaming has ever seen. And then you launch add-on content, major add-on content to a game that launched actually like 3 years ago. Next, by the time the add-on comes out, I sure hope that this is gonna go well. I would really love that Cyberpunk gets a second wind and some positive news around the game once the add-on content launches, the DLC comes out. But I feel like in 23, um, this game is gonna have a really hard time. What do you think?
It's hard. I think it's hard. It is hard to tell. I agree on the fact that it's so packed in 2023 that a lot of people are going to overlook it. Not entirely, but they're going to put it on the back burner. I myself, again, adored Cyberpunk. Like, I played through that thing pretty much start to finish over the winter when it came out.
Yeah.
Loved every minute of it. I had, much like yourself, next to no issues at all, apart from very minor. So I could thoroughly enjoy the game without problems. That aside, there is additionally to the content itself, the major benefit for this, in my opinion, that will have a little bit more of a positive effect on it, will be the fact that they ditched the last generation for this DLC.
Yeah, right.
Completely ditched that, which means that this will be theoretically not only probably looking better, there'll be a lot more to it. Obviously, to them, it's a case of they're obviously doing a lot more in this from a technical perspective on this add-on, to the point where it is literally physically unable to be on the previous generation, which tells me that they've put in a substantial amount of work to it.
I think that's why it took them 3 years to come out,
Yeah.
almost 3 years to come out with the content, and
it's
it
going to
wouldn't be a first for them.
I was going to say from CDPR, we know that when they release these, they're substantial. They're not little by any stretch. And the good news is, of course, in the meantime, you've got some massive updates to the game itself that came out with patch 1.6, which was, of course, the Series S and its glorious performance mode, which is out now, which is huge.
Cross-save
progression with every platform, which is brilliant.
Awesome. I have to connect now, actually, my account, because I have like 2 playthroughs going on right now, one on the PC and one on the console, and I always can't decide whether
Yeah,
where
yeah.
to continue. I have to link them up, actually. Yeah.
But also, of course, with the release of the anime and the patch, you have new missions, jobs, quests, etc., new clothing, new weapons, etc., also added in patch 1.6 to coincide with the anime. So there are new jobs, new quests, new missions, new story missions, etc., in the game right now that people can go and play with the either performance mode on Series S if you want to do that, or on Series X with obviously the full ray tracing or performance mode, whatever you choose, and have all that new content whilst you do it. And to be honest, right now there has never been a better time to play Cyberpunk. We're in a pretty quiet point of the year, let's put it that way. Yes,
Yep.
we have still some big hitters coming out this year. Well, to us, of course, we've still got Plague Tale Requiem so far. Touch wood.
Oh yeah.
Still got Plague Tale. We've still got Callisto Protocol. We've still got
Gotham Knights.
Gotham
Man,
Knights.
have you
Metal
seen the
Hellsinger.
latest trailer? Sorry to go off rails here for a second, but have you seen that latest trailer for Gotham Knights?
Yes.
Yeah, it is so good. It looks so good, and you can really tell that the game needed a couple of more months. If you compare that trailer now to what was shown in like February or March, or whenever that first initial gameplay was shown,
Yeah.
you can really tell the difference. And this was like kind of a behind the scenes trailer where they had also some little interviews with some of the developers cut in there. It's only 5 minutes long, but they really told like, okay, how they gonna introduce all the different characters, that you can actually play each mission with each character. So they have like all quest lines recorded, all the voice recording and stuff, like with for all 4 of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I don't know why people never talk about this game. It looks so good. So good.
Because the internet is fickle. They see
Yeah, I
something
know.
once and automatically it's labeled as gone, it's trash.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it happens all the time. And this is still the label that follows Cyberpunk around. And I see another
Yeah.
article the other day that labeled it again. They were just like, it's too little, too late for Cyberpunk, and it isn't. And it's Cyberpunk. It's too late to be redeemed. In my opinion, Cyberpunk has redeemed itself. It is in the state that it should have been at launch. It has
Through that. And it still has been a commercial success.
yeah,
It sold like
massively.
what,
18 to 20 million units.
I think it was like, but I could
Maybe
be
even
wrong.
more.
But I think they reported 25 million.
Yeah, it was 18. Obviously, 18 minus the losses at launch.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
the refunds and things. So 18 minus the losses. So they did 18 at launch, and obviously since then it's continued to sell. So it's probably around that 25 mark again now. But listen, the work that they've put into this game to get it where it needs to be, and they've understood that. I think understood in retrospect that they shouldn't have put the game out on previous gen consoles in the first place. They wouldn't have had the same issue at all. It would have been received far better. And I think the reason a lot of the things were initially missing, which I think you'll get in the DLC, they've also advised in this newest patch that the police have had an overhaul.
Yes, the police AI. This was one of the big criticism at launch, because it was like not just a bug thing, but like they advertised the AI of the police completely different in the lead up to the launch of the game, and then it wasn't simply in there. Yeah, so it's good that this comes back. You're absolutely spot on, man. Games can redeem themselves. We have seen that.
100%. We've seen it a number of times. I mean, look, let's have a. You have to keep mentioning. You have to keep mentioning that space game. I keep forgetting the name of it though. It's had like literally an update pretty much every month since its launch.
You mean
Yeah.
oh god, I know what you mean. The one that has the generic No Man's Sky.
Yes, No Man's Sky. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
thank you, CK
look
in
at the
chat.
state of that game now, like, in comparison to when it launched. It has
Yeah,
everything and more, and they're all free.
yeah,
Every update is completely free, and it's much bigger
yeah,
and much bigger every
yeah,
time.
yeah,
And that is like, the community on that is massive now. So that's redeemed itself. Look at Sea of Thieves. If you have a look at the
yeah.
state of Sea of Thieves now compared to
There's
launch.
no doubt that games can redeem themselves, but also we have to consider the reality of the importance of timing.
Yeah,
Remember Titanfall?
yeah,
Um, one of the best shooters. Titanfall 2 is what still, if you ask me, one of the best first person shooter campaigns out there today.
yeah.
Um, got completely tanked because of bad timing. And I think like that's a problem that a lot of games will have in 2023. Now,
Yeah,
granted, a lot of games will also get pushed out of 23 that are
yeah.
now announced for the 23 that she's gonna get delayed to 24 and beyond. But yeah, truly hope that Cyberpunk can redeem itself with this add-on, and it will get the buzz that
I think it is. I think for us, it doesn't
deserves.
need. Obviously, for us, it doesn't need to redeem. And I think for
Mm.
most people, it also doesn't need to redeem. The vast majority of people I've spoken to have just not played the game yet because they were waiting for it to be stable and ready to
Yeah,
play. Um, and there's a number of people that I've spoken to now who are like, "Is it really like ready to go now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like this
yeah, it
is
is. It
the
really is.
time
I
to
can
play."
confirm I'm doing a second playthrough. The playthrough is on hold right now, but I already put like I want to say 20 to 25 hours into my second playthrough after the next gen patch or current gen patch has come out, and it really is good now.
Yeah,
Like yeah, really not the same game like it was at launch. And yeah, so I'd highly recommend everyone who hasn't played it to play it this year, because this year, guys, you have a lot more time than
yeah,
next year. And yeah, it's dirt cheap as well. Like it's in every sale, you can get it for a few bucks. So highly recommend it. And by the way, Dutch, since we are on the topic of CD Projekt Red, another
yes,
game definitely deserves another playthrough this year is The Witcher 3. And they
yeah,
confirmed just the other day that in the investor calls that The Witcher 3 patch is coming this year, fourth quarter. We will get ray tracing and everything. The current gen patch for Witcher 3 that will also add the content that is related to the TV series, the Netflix series. You gonna do another playthrough?
yes. I've been with.
Okay,
I've
I wouldn't have
literally not.
accepted any other answer, by the way.
I've literally, I've literally not played it because I've been meaning to do a playthrough for a while, and it got to the point where I was just thinking, you know what, I'm at this point, I am literally going to wait. I've played through Cyberpunk, I've beat that, I've played it on the next gen patch. I'm going to wait for the DLC for that to come out and then play that again,
Yeah,
instead of going through every version of every ending and things, because that'll take forever. So I'm just going to do the DLC when that comes out.
yeah,
But yeah, with Witcher, it's already a phenomenal game. But the line that I liked best about that announcement was that it's not just a patch; they've put that as the next gen version of the game
mm,
will be out. So it is a substantial overhaul, and it's going to be, I think, a case of you're going to have the Xbox One version and you're going to have the Series X version, or you're going to have the PlayStation 5 version or the PlayStation 4 version. There's going to be two separate, like it would do in a cross generational thing, but the next gen version of the game, which of course I think obviously it's a free patch,
yeah,
or a free upgrade, um, will be a separate file entirely from the Xbox One version of the title.
yeah.
Um, and of course, the substantial work that they're putting into that game, um, I'm looking forward to seeing that because the game's already beautiful.
Yeah,
Uh,
indeed. And I wonder what they will add actually, because like the game already has a performance mode on
yeah,
Xbox, and that the beauty about this performance mode is that it runs with dynamic resolution. So what that means is that when you play it in performance mode on Xbox, you already have 4K 60 FPS.
Yeah.
It really runs at stable 4K 60 FPS on the Series X, because that performance mode was actually designed for the One X,
Yeah.
where
It'll
the
be 4K
resolution was
60 ray
then
tracing.
exactly 4K 60 ray tracing, and
And
hopefully all
performance will be
the
120.
ultra physics from the PC version.
Yeah.
Like
Performance,
it's
they'll push
crazy.
it to 120. If you want
Mm,
performance mode, it's 120 frames.
there you go. There you go.
Um,
Yeah,
but
that would
on
be
top of that as well, of course, alongside that, you will have the inclusion of the Netflix DLC to go
yes.
alongside it. So additional content, new quests that no one's played, new equipment, new armor, new weapons. Awesome.
What else do you want? It's gonna be
Yeah.
awesome.
And
It's
everyone will look
gonna
like
be
Henry Cavill playing the game instead of the original Witcher.
facts, facts. Yeah, man, man, good stuff here. Can't wait. Oh, God, I love The Witcher. Man, some exciting stuff is gonna happen this weekend. Let's move on from The Witcher because we will
Yes.
have an in-depth discussion, guys, once that patch drops. Yeah,
Yep.
no doubt. But yeah, I want to briefly talk about Ubisoft this and Marvel this weekend. We're gonna have a showcase from both of them. So it's actually awesome, yeah, to have like the Marvel event on Friday, the Marvel Disney event, and on Saturday we get the Ubisoft event. I want to start actually with the Ubisoft event, because we know actually quite a few things now about this event. My Ubisoft already confirmed that there will be Assassin's Creed Mirage, which will be set in Baghdad, and it is apparently smaller scaled
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed, like more going back to the original trilogy. And it will only be one of 3 Assassin's Creed, has the rumor. They will apparently show 2 other Assassin's Creed games, or announce them at least, at the event that will then be part of this rumored Assassin's Creed Infinity. One Assassin's Creed is apparently gonna be based in Japan, and the other one is gonna be focused around the witch hunt in the Holy Roman Empire, and is codenamed Hexen, which is the German word for witch. So Hexe is basically the German word for witch. So yeah, that's what the rumors have. What do you think? Are you excited to see the future of Assassin's Creed?
No. No. I understand what they're doing, and they're trying to go multiple different directions with Assassin's Creed and the Assassin's Creed IP, but Ubisoft have also got a knack of milking something beyond comprehension. And I think Assassin's Creed ideally needs a long break, other than doing the complete opposite, which is we have now 5 projects in the works. All of them are Assassin's Creed, and let's go.
Well,
Yeah,
it used to be an annual franchise, and
it
now
did.
it's already 2 years since we had Valhalla. Mirage is rumored to come out next year then.
Yeah.
So that
It's
would
not
give
it's not to say that we didn't. I didn't enjoy Valhalla because I did enjoy the 70 or 80 hours I put into it. But it was a Marmite game. So me and you enjoyed it. We enjoyed the expansions.
Yeah.
But we also know that there was parts of that game that dragged on too much.
Yeah, definitely.
There is also a lot of people that played Valhalla or even the previous title and got 20 to 25 hours in and thought it's just dragging. It's taking too long. The story doesn't really know where it's going too much. Or lost interest in it, or it was just same old, same old.
So you're basically saying you would appreciate them going back with Mirage to the more classic AC games.
See, because I didn't even like the and this I've said this with all 3 of the newest generation Assassin's Creed games, with Odyssey, with
Origins was the first one,
Origins,
then we had
and
Odyssey.
Valhalla.
Yeah.
Is none of those should have been named Assassin's Creed. and they should have had nothing to do with Assassin's Creed.
Yeah,
They
they
could have
should just
released all
ditch
three of those
the modern day
titles.
timeline in
Yeah,
these games. I
they could have
agree
just
there.
released those titles as Valhalla, as Odyssey, as Origins, just like that without the Assassin's Creed tag, and they would have still done fine. There
Yeah.
would have still been good games, but it was nothing to do. Like, they didn't have to include the assassins in any of those games. They didn't have to. They forced them into that. If you like, Assassin's Creed should have stayed Assassin's Creed. It was about the rise of the assassins, the original rise of the
See,
assassins, Ezio, etc., and it lost its
I
way.
I get your point there,
Yeah.
but I have to disagree here. Actually, I feel like see that the thing with many ongoing franchises like Assassin's Creed is that people always complain like it's the same thing each and every year, and Assassin's Creed actually had that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were better ones like Black Flag was really good. Then we had Unity, which obviously was a disaster. Then we had the one that with the steampunk setting, blanking on the name, but we had like these hits and misses, but people were like, "Ah, it's each and every year the same. They just throw another paint job on it, and then they are good to go." And then they actually went back to the drawing board and reinvented Assassin's Creed and made it basically an RPG, an open world RPG with
Yeah.
Origins. And I absolutely loved Origins. And then they refined that formula 2 years later with Odyssey. And I think to this day, Odyssey is the best Assassin's Creed game there is out there. And yeah, I agree with Valhalla. And you could already tell then with Valhalla that now this formula is kind of already running a little dry because it's just huge open map. It's a little bit too huge and it's a little bit too repetitive. Valhalla still a good game though, but I get that people feel like
And if you
okay,
think about Valhalla as well, like, the only time you see the Animus is the beginning of the game,
yeah.
and
Don't
then
get me
the
started
end
about
of
the
the game.
animus, and then in the middle, one time in the middle, and then once at the end, and that's about it. So
Yeah.
they could have just left that out. I agree there. They
Yeah.
just, but they could have done that actually after Black Flag. Just dropped the modern day timeline
Yeah.
thing, and they didn't need it in Unity and any other Assassin's Creed game. It is after the Ezio trilogy. Honestly, I felt like the modern day timeline just went down the hill, and they should have just get rid of it anyway.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, I appreciate Ubisoft taking a gamble actually with Origins back in the day when they said, okay, we are gonna do something different with one of our biggest IPs. I appreciate that when a developer does that. And now it seems like, hey, we feel like the feedback was okay. Open world Valhalla, a little bit too much, a little bit too big, a little bit too stretched out. Let's go back and change it back to a more classic formula, make it a little bit smaller, mm, probably a little bit more streamlined. I actually like that Ubisoft is doing that. And I don't know really what is going on with that Assassin's Creed Infinity. It sounds like to me it's gonna be something like a hub
Yeah, it's
from
like a
where they
live
can build
service game.
upon. And if they do a good Japanese-based Assassin's Creed or one set in, pardon me, set in the Holy Roman Empire, and then they have like different kind of Assassin's Creed games, like every 3 years a big open world Assassin's Creed, and one year they take a break, and one year they do a Mirage kind of thing where it's more linear, more streamlined, not open world, one city. Like, I feel that could actually work. So I'm really excited to see what they will do. And I also want to mention, like, Ubisoft has started each and every generation with a complete overhaul of their engine. Sometimes it went good, sometimes it didn't go too smooth. But if you remember Unity, that game was like breathtakingly gorgeous, too gorgeous to be handled by the Wii consoles. And then they had a complete overhaul with their engine for Origins and Odyssey and Valhalla. Of course, they all run on the same version of their engine. Now I want to see, does Ubisoft do the same thing and they really go back and completely overhaul their engine and make the next Assassin's Creed Mirage look like this mind-blowing game again? They have done that in the past, so
But are they gonna rest on the? If I see in Mirage, if I see another reference to the Animus again and going through that, I am done. I am like, there's nothing more painful than that section. Like, it's as if
so true.
it's like they've lumped
Like,
in or attempting to lump in like Uncharted without
yeah,
weapons or action, just pointless little platforming sections into
true.
what would otherwise be an awesome open world action RPG game.
Yeah.
Take you out of your enjoyment of it, put you into a random time where you're jumping out of some time machine, and then doing something for no reason, running back to the hut, getting back in it, checking your emails. Like, what?
You know, I'm always like, just I want to skip that email. Fuck, where can I go back to the to the
Just get us
animus?
back in.
Yeah,
Just
so
get us back in.
I totally get you there. So, but that's
It's
not
not
gonna
your,
happen.
they
That's
just need
not
to
gonna
ditch
happen.
the Animus, like, completely. Like, yes, I understand if you're Ezio or whatever it is, an assassin, but we don't need to see someone investigating it. Like, we know we're the assassin. We can learn about the history of this assassin whilst playing as the assassin. We don't need
Absolutely, we
a
don't need that
historian in
modern
the
day.
background.
But you know what I feel like? We've heard about Assassin's Creed Infinity being like kind of like a hub thing, or no
A
one
live
really
service
knows.
game, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that Infinity thing is gonna be kind of like an ongoing modern day Assassin's Creed game. So you have like basically this hub world, yeah, and you walk in modern day, and then you kind of walk around, and you go into this animus over there, and then you start up suddenly in Mirage, and then you go
That
there,
would
you
be a good
start
idea.
Valhalla, and you have like this, and I mark my words, that's what's Infinity gonna be.
That would be a good idea. That would make use of the Animus system. That
Yes,
would make more sense
exactly.
than
Make it
just
like an ongoing
lumping
live
it in.
game, and then you just add basically games into this,
Yeah.
and then you within this live game, you go into this building where the Animus starts for the Holy Roman Empire game, Assassin's Creed, and the Japanese game one. And such.
Yeah.
Mark my words, we will talk about this next week once we know
Yes.
what it actually is. What do you think about the Ubisoft event besides Assassin's Creed? Is there going to be anything exciting? Like, I don't know, they could show the Splinter Cell remake, Beyond Good and Evil, the Avatar game, the Star Wars
You would
game.
you would hope that they show Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah.
God, it's been so long since we've seen that. So long since that was announced. Like, that is almost as long as
I want to say 2018.
oh, it's longer than that, isn't it?
The chat will let us know. The chat
I'm sure
will
it's
let us
longer
know.
than that. But
You
yeah,
know,
it's
I feel like today we rely a lot on our fantastic chat whenever we have blanks here. Yeah, but yeah, it's been a long time. So Beyond Good and Evil, please continue.
yeah. And again, would love to see Splinter Cell remake showing off as well. However, I don't want that rushed, and I don't want them showed off unless it's ready to show off. The last thing I want to do, we've been waiting for Splinter Cell to be redone or a new version or rebooted, whatever it is. We've been waiting for that moment for years now, years and years. I don't want them to show something like a bit like the Prince of Persia that they showed off a few years ago that was announced, and it was an absolute mess. I do not want that to happen with Splinter Cell.
Yeah,
So
same.
if it isn't ready to show, do not
Do
show
we
it.
know in which engine they are gonna do the remake? Is it gonna be the Anvil engine, the Snowdrop engine?
Snowdrop, I think.
Okay. Snowdrop is a gorgeous engine, so yeah, man. But I'm fully with you. Like, will we see Prince of
Beyond
Persia?
Good and Evil 2 was first announced way back in 2008.
That is insane. That is insane. Thanos puts in chat like Beyond Good and Evil 2 2017. Yeah, I think that was the reveal trailer. Like
Yeah.
5 years now, and we've not seen anything from that game. Just like with Skull and Bones, which is also, by the way, coming out. So I expect that game to be there. But
Yes.
then, like, I feel like Ubisoft really has actually an exciting pipeline. If we think about the Avatar game, which is now probably coming out end of next year, definitely not this fiscal year, they said. So then we have
I think
like,
we will see Avatar. We'll 100% see Avatar.
hmm,
And I'm looking forward to that. That is probably my
yeah,
most anticipated game of them all because obviously it's on the Snowdrop engine. It's going to look
yeah,
unbelievable. But it's also the type of world that is in comparison to what would be a realistic setting, i.e., Greece
yeah,
or Europe, England, Britain, whatever it is. No matter what time zone it is, that's a realistic setting, even
yeah.
if it is in the past. The world of Avatar and Pandora, etc., is vibrant, colorful, full of like awesome luminescent colors and lighting, and
Oh, yeah.
it's so I am looking forward to seeing the world that they've created there. Not so much what the story's about and things, just to see that world imagined in game form.
Yeah.
So yeah, look forward to that most definitely.
Same, same. Then we obviously have like a new Watch Dogs in the making. They have a
I don't
Far
think we'll
Cry.
see Watch Dogs this year.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Watch Dogs and Far Cry, I feel like they're not gonna show that. But
Yeah,
yeah, man, in between Avatar, Splinter Cell, Prince of Persia,
Skull and Bones.
Skull and Bones. Now, obviously, Assassin's Creed games, plural, multiple games. This show has actually the potential to be a good one for Ubisoft. So let's see. Let's see. The Star Wars game.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the Marvel and Disney event one day earlier.
Yes.
So
It's been
I'm
confirmed
not
to be
sure.
around 25 minutes long, which is pretty decent. That's quite long.
That has been confirmed. Must have missed that. That is awesome, man. 25 minutes. We know Amy Henning's game is gonna be there.
Yeah.
There are multiple different rumors going around. Some say it's gonna be a Daredevil game. Today, I've seen the rumor going around that it's actually a game in the Marvel universe that is playing with um, during the Second World War with Captain America and Black Panther.
Yeah.
So yeah, Amy Henning's game's definitely gonna be there, whatever it will be. What else do you expect from that event?
Oof. I had this great discussion yesterday with the midweek crew, and for me, I'm just personally for the event itself, I'm just happy that Disney and Marvel have decided to get all in on the gaming side. I think they've realized the mistakes previously that they had with giving EA full exclusivity of a major
Oh, yeah.
IP. They understand how that messed it up, but I also think now they understand the importance of what their IP can do in video games.
Yeah.
If everybody's given the opportunity to make something, and that's what they've done, they've farmed out their IPs to developers big and small. So I'm expecting to see some smaller titles by some smaller indie studios. You never know. There could be completely out the blue, but there could be news about a new Disney and Sea of Thieves crossover with Pirates of the Caribbean again. There could be more information or gameplay on Kingdom Hearts 4, which is obviously a huge Disney and Square Enix crossover.
Yeah.
The largest of them, and in fact, I would go as far to say as it's probably the most profitable Disney game that they have at the moment.
Granted, they don't have that many with
Yeah,
the classic Disney characters.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, and obviously we know Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Hopefully
Is
that's
that
going to be
game gonna
shown.
be there?
Yes, I hope so. I hope
Oh,
so.
I sure hope so.
It's
Yeah,
it's
me too.
releasing next year, isn't it? So
Yes,
um,
early next year, actually,
yeah.
they said.
So
So
if it's going to be shown, then yes, I would say. And the good thing about the trailers is all it needs is a good 1 minute, 2 minute gameplay trailer. A quick
Running in
one, just
Unreal
showing a little bit of
5.
the gameplay, a little bit of a tease. That's all they need to do. They don't need to go too far into it. Just a little tease.
Yeah.
And Disney are good at teasers. To be fair, they put good trailers
Yes,
together.
indeed. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So we expect Jedi Survivor to be there. At least, definitely hope it will be.
What other Star Wars games will we see? I mean, there are multiple candidates. We have like the Ubisoft Star Wars game. We have the KOTOR remake that is apparently coming
we
out to
won't
Saber
see KOTOR.
Interactive.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
won't see KOTOR.
I don't think so either. Then we have Respawn's Star Wars first-person shooter they're working on. We have the Bit Reactor Star Wars strategy game.
Yep.
We have Star Wars Eclipse from Blue, something with Blue.
Yeah, I forgot the name of
Anyway.
it. Yes. Yeah.
Man, today we
Yeah, brain fog today.
Yeah. Star Wars Eclipse, I don't know. Google this. Drives me mad. Quantic Dream, not Blue. Yeah, Quantic Dream. Exactly. So we have that. We
You still have
almost know
there's also
for
potential.
everyone.
There's Disney, and this is a good thing about Disney as well. And it's their D23 weekend. If people don't know what Disney D23 is their annual event where they talk about everything in the world of Disney. Theme parks, movies, TV series, books. So this weekend, if you're a Disney Marvel fan, is the time to tune in to see when the next Loki's coming and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what Disney aren't scared of doing is announcing things as a title for years down the line. So it could be an opportunity where they say, right, these are all the games that are coming out in the next few months or next year or so. And these are games that we're announcing today that are currently in production by our partners at X and X and X.
Yeah.
Disney aren't scared to do that because they're happy to announce these things way in advance. Way in advance. Like Disney are a different beast.
Yeah, indeed.
So
like they laid out the Marvel roadmap, if you remember that,
until 2026.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I feel like, I mean, this would be it's more probably of a wishful thinking from my side, but I feel like
and you're mentioning
we need
Avatar as well before, but Avatar is also a Disney IP. So do we see Avatar
absolutely
at Ubisoft, or do we see it at Disney?
That's why I'm a little surprised that you said that it's confirmed it's only going to be 25 minutes long, because I feel like it has the potential to show off so much. Now, is there, and I feel like the chat wants to know here as well, is there a Mandalorian game coming?
Oh, I think there's definitely a Mandalorian game. Whether or not we see
Will we see it?
is another thing. Whether or not we see it is another thing. No, I don't think we'll see the first-person shooter by Respawn either. I think
we're gonna see the Survivor.
Jedi Survivor. And if this is the start, the one thing I'll take from this is if this show is successful, this can be the start of an additional showcase to the annual roster that we're used to, that goes in line with the D23 event every year, which means every year we're going to get new updates on Marvel and Disney IPs in the gaming sector.
And that would be absolutely awesome to have that as an annual thing to look forward to.
Yeah. One thing to take note of as well is with Sony's idea of being very quiet this year, and so far their lack of showcase. And usually by now, something's been announced. September now. They usually have it this month. There is nothing being announced. Yes, you usually get it with a week's notice or something, but nothing so far.
We're almost halfway through September again.
Yeah.
We don't see
Spider-Man 2?
Listen, Spider-Man 2 was scheduled for 2023, and like every game, it's gonna get a delay these days, so it's at least 24 for Spider-Man 2. So I don't think we will see it this year. Honestly, I feel like, it's just my theory, and maybe this theory is because I'm a little mad at Sony right now, but I feel like obviously they also have that delay issue and the pipeline issue and everything. Just Xbox got hit a year earlier with that issue, and I feel like 2023 is gonna be um, that pipeline problem that they will have, and that's why they don't have the showcase, because they simply don't have the stuff in a state where they wanna or can announce it. They will still have a few games, like Forspoken is obviously coming out, but not a first party game. Then we have like the Last of Us Factions thing, the multiplayer. But honestly, I do have the feeling that Xbox got hit with the pipeline problem due to COVID and everything else in 2022, and I feel like Sony is gonna get hit with that in 23, and that's why they don't have any events right now, because literally, are you gonna be able to show the things that you have coming in 24 and beyond? That's probably too early, and you can't do all CGI trailers. That's also like they did with Wolverine and Spider-Man. They can't do that again. So yeah, that's just my theory.
Yeah,
But
we shall we shall see. We shall see.
we
It
shall
depends.
see.
Because again, put my teeth in. Insomniac are having a live stream anyway to celebrate the birthday of Spider-Man, the game itself. So we'll see whether or not they announce it themselves and talk about Spider-Man 2 there. But if Sony aren't having an event because there's not much else to talk about, but Insomniac have something to show that Disney can show off, that would be the
Point.
only thing that they could
That would
show.
be.
Of course, Sony have a lot of stuff in the works anyway. We're just not aware of what it is as yet.
Yeah, true. True. They have a lot. Obviously, they have a lot of stuff in the works. But when's that stuff due?
Yeah.
That is the thing. And now you add we know that games that are early in development have been hit a little bit harder than games that are fairly far along in development. We've heard it so many times from all kinds of different publishers. Games that were at the early stage in development had it harder than games that were farther along. And a lot of the first party games at Sony Studios obviously are in early stages, because, like, in the last 2 years of the PS4 generation, basically every studio released a game. Yeah, you had like Days Gone from Ben's studio. We had The Last of Us 2. We had Ghost of Tsushima. We had all these games coming, and now obviously they need another 5 years plus the 1 year delay. So I just I could be wrong here, but I feel like 23 is gonna be a relatively empty year for Sony, and that's why they feel like they don't really need to do a showcase, and they rather save the excitement around the showcase for when they need that excitement, because they don't really need it. They have God of War coming this year. They have enough, and Microsoft really doesn't have anything to compete with them. They have enough excitement from a games perspective around their brand. So they really don't need that showcase. They need it next year when they don't have the games to launch, and
Yeah.
Microsoft is firing on all cylinders with Starfield, Redfall, Forza, and probably an About or something like that. Yeah. And then they need that blowout showcase where they show you the next Uncharted game or whatever, yeah, and whatever Bend is working on and such. So yeah, just my thoughts, but yeah, we shall see. We shall see, man.
The thing
Still,
about the one concern I've got about God of War is right now Sony are being very quiet on God of War, but Cory Barlog seems to be trying to pick up the slack and generate excitement about how good the game is and how good it's looking. And I feel sorry for Cory because again, this is a case of this. I feel like Sony are kind of letting this down, and they've done this several times this year already. They've just put out these very small, next to non-existent posts about games that are out now, and not really generated the hype that they used to. Yes, they put out loads of big billboards and things like that, but they haven't made a big deal about them.
Yeah.
Like we've seen with the announcement of a couple of their games this year, they've kind of just ended up, oh yeah, well this Last of Us Part One's coming out. This is the price. See you later. And then it came out,
Yep.
and like that's it. It's out now. No one's no one said anything
Well,
about it since then.
granted, the marketing budget is fairly high on that game. I see billboards, TV commercials, internet commercials, a lot actually for that game. So
I haven't seen any. The
really
Last of Us, none at all.
interesting.
Yeah,
So Sony's doing basically a Microsoft in the UK now.
it's weird.
Interesting.
It's weird. They've
Weird.
just went so, and it's they're Sony are used to making these big deals out of their games and events, and I feel this year I don't know what it is, but they seem to be dropping the ball a lot on the way that they show these games off. And I feel like God of War might be that next one as well, where they kind of it releases. Yes, there's a couple of TV adverts and things like that, but like we used to seeing these in showcases and these big like grandiose gameplay events, and like you seen how God of War was unveiled the first time it came out with this massive like orchestra and everything like that, and then the new ones nothing. It's like next to nothing. It's a shame.
Nothing so far. So far. True that. Man, Sony is so weird. So weird these days.
It's
all right.
Specifically this year, they've just been so strange. Like this is
it's
like we've said before, like, and Jim Ryan's persona this year has kind of encapsulated what Sony's been like this year. It's dropping the ball and resting on laurels, expecting people. It's like an entitlement. He thinks they're entitled to this fan adulation without any updates. You just drop a game and expect it to do well without any further input.
Yep. Basically, viral marketing will do the trick for us because we're so big. Yeah. It will be interesting. It will be interesting to see how they handle God of War. I mean, at least they have now the cover story from Game Informer, and we get these little news bits about it. But yeah, come on, it's really not a big advertisement campaign or marketing campaign around it. And given that this is probably after Uncharted and Spider-Man their biggest IP,
it's the biggest launch this year.
Definitely. Yeah, man. But I want to move on. Just one quick shout out to Thomas in the chat. He asks, what do we know about Jedi Survivor? We don't know really much. We know it runs in Unreal 5. We know it's a sequel to the first one.
Yeah.
A
direct
much
sequel.
about it.
Woohoo!
Yeah, man. We will see Cal Kestis again. So, but that's pretty much it. And yeah, we shall see what other Star Wars games will be shown tomorrow. Good times we live in, man. So before we move to the community questions of the week, because we have actually quite a lot, because we've
got to do some catch up.
we need to catch up on some. We couldn't get to the community questions last week because we had a very special guest there. So yeah, we're gonna get to the community questions. Just one thing: Xbox has updated or rolled out an update with a couple of new features today. They have a new noise suppression option now in party chat that will remove like clicking from mouse and keyboard or music running in the background and other background noises. And they have a jump right into a game option now from a friend's screenshot. So basically what is possible now when you post a screenshot on Xbox playing, I don't know, let's say Forza Horizon 5. I say, dude, I love that shot. I have one click and it takes me straight to the game, either to the cloud, or if I have it installed natively, I can do that if I'm on my console. So what do you think, man?
Yeah, it's a nice update, specifically the noise suppression. We know what it can be like with breathing, and if for those who haven't used the Xbox headset now, there is no wind protector on it. It is just an open microphone, so breathing and things like that, obviously naturally, can happen. So you're going to hear that a little bit more frequently. There's a lot of people, specifically if you play with friends in America, where they're more inclined to have warmer temperatures. In certain
Yeah.
parts of America, they have fans on all the time, and that, of course, causes natural noise in the background. So noise suppression for those noises will be a blessing. So yeah, it's a great little update. But we also got another update for Microsoft today and Xbox, and that's the new UI.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let people know what can they expect.
Yes, so the UI, of course, it's a slightly revised UI. It's a little bit cleaner on the dashboard. Instead of having one giant app for the game that you're currently playing,
Yeah.
one giant tile, it is a much smaller tile. It's all a little bit more in sync with everything else, a little bit more uniformed. So you have your games on there. You've got the again a couple of options. Your recently played games and apps underneath, so you can jump straight to that folder
Yeah.
instead of having to press the guide
It's
button.
basically there's an entire row that is called like jump back in.
Yeah. And then you've got your games and apps, you've got settings or whatever it is that you put underneath there, and then something else. But it's a little bit more uniformed. That's available and will be tweaked via alpha users now. So anybody that's on the Insider program, it's available now for alpha users, or at least is rolling out now for alpha users. Will officially launch for everybody else in 2023. So it's a nice refined UI going forward. However, personally still dislike it because we can still not really see the backgrounds that we get.
Yes. There we go. I was just about to say that, man. It's I still feel like the user interface itself is actually good. You can get it's responsive. You can get fairly quickly to where you want to be with like
Yep.
1-2 clicks. You my games and apps or there can start a party chat with like 2 or 3 clicks. It's really easy and smooth, and I really appreciate the guide. I've gotten so used to the guide, just pressing the jewel down, and then the guide comes up and can navigate to everything from there. I really appreciate it, but the dashboard itself still looks so cluttered with like these ads. Why do we need ads? I pay for the console, I pay for the service. I remove the ads for God's sakes. Let me
Yeah,
see those.
I understand if you're only paying for gold and you haven't got Game Pass and they put
Yeah,
the
but
ads
even
on the
then you
dashboard and
have
things.
basically purchased the console. So
Yeah.
come on. If you buy it like back in the days when you used to buy a, I don't know, Blu-ray player or something, yeah, you
Yeah.
just don't get straight
I
and
understand.
center
I understand.
advertisements, yeah. And if I open my smart hub on my TV, I don't get advertisements. It's
Yeah.
just not. I feel like this is something that needs to go and then make the tiles smaller, like you said. We want to see those beautiful backgrounds that we can put up there.
Yeah. I mean, this is where
Yeah.
they need to kind of look at the PlayStation UI in the presentation, not how it responds and how it acts in
Hmm.
the overall overlay. But what we should be looking at is essentially, and you'll know this primarily from the PlayStation 4's UI, is you have the row of the applications on the bottom of the screen. You have the entirety of the top end of the screen, which is the background.
Yeah.
And it's nice and clean. You can see everything. You've still got all the icons right there in
Yeah.
front of you. And then you can have
Yeah,
top right, top left. Nice and easy. Do that. It doesn't
nice
need to
and
be
easy.
overkill.
You know what is weird? Like in every Xbox generation, we had at least one major significant change of the user interface. If you go back to the OG Xbox, how that user interface started and when the console generation ended, how it looked. And if you remember, the Xbox 360 actually started also with more like something that's closer to what we have right now with little tiles and stuff. And then they had that flipping thing, which looked like you could browse a catalog or something, and
Yeah.
it was completely different.
Yeah.
And then they started with the one where they had only those black tiles that looked like basically the Windows Phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they changed it to where we are now. So I wonder if we will see such a complete basic revamp of the user or interface, or whether it will only be like these smaller iterations that we get now. Yeah,
I think it'd
we
be
shall
smart. I
see.
mean, to be fair, the revamp of the current layout would have to be it's so minimal to get what people want out of it. that I don't understand why they haven't just done that. Like, all they need to do is move those icons instead of being dead center on the screen to
Yeah.
being at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah. Make them smaller, move them to the bottom, and you're good to go.
And that's it. Done.
And
That's
that's
all they
it.
need to do. Just shift it. Stop. Don't put it bang in the middle. I don't want to like see that. We want to be able to see the background. Like, you've
Yeah.
put all these lovely animated backgrounds in that we can use, but we can't see them.
True. True.
So,
All right. Yeah, man. Good
step by
stuff.
step,
Good
we'll get
stuff
there.
here. One last thing before we go to the community questions, though.
Yes.
You get competition. You know what? Want to know why?
Go on.
Because there will be an Xbox ID at Xbox Showcase.
Yes, there will be another one.
Yeah, on September 14th on Twitch. And I can already tell it's not gonna be on the same level like your ID showcase. I just want to mention it here. There's an ID at Xbox Showcase September 14th on Twitch. But if you want to see the real deal, definitely check out Wandering Duchess Indie Showcase. That's how you do indie showcases. Absolutely. All right, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's move to the community questions. There we go. So, like we mentioned earlier, last week we didn't get to the community questions. So, we're going to do a little catch up here from a couple of awesome questions that the community sent in last week and this week. Because, like each and every Wednesday, the community can go up on Twitter, on YouTube, or everywhere else where I am to contact me and send in questions, community questions, so you can be a part of the show, even if you can't make it live. So, this week's community question, the first one, is actually coming from Doom Cutie.
Okay.
She asks, "What game are you terrible at?"
Oh God, that's so many.
It would be easier to name the games that I'm good at. So,
yeah, I was going to say there's so many games I'm bad at. So many games. As much as I'm a sports fan, and love football and things like that, I am terrible at things like Football Manager. I have absolutely I can set a team up and things like that, but the intricacies on telling players how to do certain things and managing teams, etc. No, I'm not good enough at that. My teams always fail, even though I've got the best players in them, or in good attacking lineups or whatever it is. I'm not. This is the way I am as a gamer. I will never profess to be the best at something, but I am proficient at everything. So I can hold my own in pretty much any game you put me on, but I'm never going to be the best, and I'm certainly not going to be the worst. I am kind of a bang average gamer.
I kind of feel like that's where I am too. And since I don't play sports game, I can't really talk about when I'm good at, I don't know, FIFA or so. It's been a long time since I played my last FIFA match. I gotta admit that. I also want to know from people in chat. What games do you suck at? So for me, I'm definitely not the best in shooters. I can definitely admit that. I'm fairly decent in strategy games though. So yeah. Fantasir writes in and says, "Hey, he's not good at the game of life."
I feel like at times we're also not good at that, but
at times, yeah. No, yeah.
But I think, I mean, the distinguishing thing that I always put into games or gamers in general is if you put enough time into something, you will always automatically get better anyway. Just by it's a practice. Again, the age-old adage of practice makes perfect. I'm always someone that learns through difficulty and through failure. One of the best things I can say to that is Street Fighter. I was terrible at fighting games, but my mate from college from years ago, we just sat down and I used to play, and he'd essentially beat us up time after time after time after time, and then he teaches the combos, he teaches how to do crossovers, he teaches how to do parries and throws, he teaches how to fight back. And even though he would continue to beat me repeatedly every match, it was a case of, by the time, because he was a really good Street Fighter player, he was like pro level, he would always win on ranked matches, he was essentially tournament level player. But by the time I got online and started to play against the people that he would usually play at, I become an annoyance to people who were actually good at the game, to the point where I was starting to beat some professional players. And that is what we, again, call practice make perfect. So I'm not going to be the best at all fighters. But if someone wants or enjoys a game enough, like Boxy does with Age of Empires, the fact that he plays it continuously, he learns the strategies, he's interested in the game itself, automatically, through revision, through continued failure and success, he's learning the best things to do, the worst things to do. Don't do this because this isn't going to work. Do this works. So it's the same with everything. You will automatically, even if you think you're terrible at the game, if you're continuing to play the best people at the game all the time, you're inadvertently going to get better because you're always playing against the best opponent.
Practice. Yeah, it is. It's actually why I stopped playing many shooters. I used to play a lot of them, and that's why I said I feel like I'm not good at them anymore. Because I just don't have the patience to practice anymore. Like when I feel like hundreds of hours I put into, I don't know, Halo 3 or Gears 2 or so, it was like, different times. I don't have that time anymore, especially since I became a father. I just have less time to game, obviously, and so that's why I transitioned actually over to more single player games than multiplayer games. But great question. We have Siki in chat. He says he's got no game with the ladies. Good shout here. Love it. Great question coming from Doom Cutie, all the way from Australia. So Game Pass Weekly writes in and asks, if you could only play one Game Pass game from 2022, what are you choosing?
Well, that's an easy one now, because I think one of my most anticipated has just come out, or at least is announced now in 2022. Woohoo!
Metal Hellsinger.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
So I think, out of as much as I'm looking forward to High on Life, which I am, and Plague Tale Requiem, from the demo alone, the addictiveness of Metal Hellsinger, and I touched on this yesterday, the utter addictiveness on that, the Doom mixed in with bullet hell when you get to the boss stages, mixed in with rhythm shooter, and the multiplayer, the way they work, and the music and the way that kicks in and how it kicks in, and the game itself, coupled with the fact that it has a leaderboard and you go against your friends to get higher scores, is like an old arcade feeling Doom shooter that is just like perfect for modern gamers. So I think, and just from the demo alone, God knows how long I've played that, and I downloaded it again the other day, because just from talking about it, I was like, oh, you know what it is? I'm installing it again. I'm going to play that, because it's going to be one of those games that I don't think I'll put down for a while. I think I just want to continue to improve and improve and improve. So Metal Hellsinger, 100%, my Game Pass game of the year.
Sweet. I don't know if Age of Empires 4 counts. That's obviously the one. It's actually, it kind of feels like I'm only playing that anyway. But besides that, I mean, Metal Hellsinger is a good shout, and just for the sake of it, I'm gonna say a Plague Tale, because I'm definitely gonna do 2 or 3 playthroughs of that game. I can't wait. Man, good questions here. Then we have Sith Lord. He asks, what games were you really excited for to play but disappointed when you finally played them?
There's a few.
For me, it was
really
Returnal.
excited to play them and
I was
Go on.
Returnal was one I was really looking forward to, because I was coming straight off from Hades, roguelike, really loved it, and everyone was praising Returnal. And I was really disappointed with it. I didn't feel it was well designed. Didn't reward the time you put in. Had some unfair mechanics, not difficult, but unfair mechanics. I hate that in games.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely one. Which one were you disappointed?
Um, so this is relatively difficult. There's a lot of games that like minor disappointed in, but still went on to enjoy.
Hmm.
But I would probably say, and again, I only buy games that I'm super hyped for. I don't just buy games for the sake of it.
Hmm.
So ones that I didn't buy, but my friend bought because he's a massive Mass Effect fan, but I was disappointed by, was Andromeda.
Oh.
I was expecting big things from that. The opening stages of Andromeda were cool. I thought it was decent to a point, and then it started to disappoint. Then it started to get boring. And there was many issues with the facial expressions on characters that just took you out of it, and they just become more of fetch quests. And I was like, yeah, the early promise that the game had shown in the early stage, where you're jumping around the planet and everything's happening, and there's a lot of awesome atmosphere and action going on, very quickly died out. So that left me pretty disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also having actually a hard time to answer this because it rarely happens that I'm actually getting disappointed because in this day and age, I find it really easy to estimate whether I'm gonna enjoy a game up front or not. And it's not just because of reviews, it's actually because of all the other things that we have access to now. We can see clips, we can have access to people that actually played it through social media. We have this amazing community. And when you're not really sure about a game, you just ask a couple of people you know, and someone's gonna tell you, yeah, that game is gonna be for you or not. So it's most of the time I'm really not getting disappointed.
Yeah,
Anthem is gonna get mentioned in chat.
yeah, of
Yeah, I
course,
feel
of
like
course. You know what it is?
good
The thing
good
about
shout. Yeah.
Anthem is the thing about Anthem to me isn't that for me it wasn't the disappointment in the game. It's the
Oh, the
disappointment in the
mechanics were
fact that
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, because I enjoyed what I played.
Mhm.
So I'm not disappointed in the game. I'm disappointed in the fact that the studio, in fact, it wasn't even the studio, it was their bosses, essentially EA, etc.,
Yeah.
just went, we're not supporting it anymore, goodbye. And they just
Yeah.
cut it off. The potential for that game and what it could have been was huge. So the disappointment lies in the fact that EA just decided to cut that thing off and just
Yeah.
ditch it. The game itself had a lot of promise. It had a lot of, like, essentially, you
True.
were Iron Man. You were an awesome Iron Man that
And
floats
actually
around with
well
loads of
done.
weapons, and
It felt really good to fly
it
around.
felt
Shooting
really good. It
mechanics
felt
felt
awesome,
solid. Yeah.
and it just, like I say, it was just lack of forward vision by EA that thought this can't be saved. It could have been,
Yeah.
of course, it could have been redeemed. Of course, if they
Absolutely.
had the as we like to say, if you had the balls to put it on the line and actually give them a chance, I fully believe BioWare could have redeemed that game.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. Shout out to Dave Ramos. He sends in a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, man, for the amazing support here. He says, I wasn't ready for heavy topics in As Dusk Falls. That's a me issue, not the game.
Yep,
Uh yeah.
that's fair.
So it, it's oftentimes it is a me issue with games because like I always usually say there are really rarely actually bad games. There are just a lot of games that are my taste. Like I always complain about the Kojima games, but obviously they are not bad games per se. They're just not for me, and I don't get them. But doesn't mean they're bad. Yeah, they're just not for me. And yeah, on S Dusk Falls, I haven't played it yet. I have it installed, but I haven't been in the mood, man, to start it yet. I have to do that. Have you played
Yeah.
S Dusk Falls?
I've played a little bit of it, but again, for me, the thing that I didn't like about As Dusk Falls, and this was just on a console perspective, it might be better as a touchscreen handheld,
Yeah.
better on PC, but from a controller perspective, it was just so slow in like moving the cursor around the screen and the choices and things like.
Yeah, I
It,
remember you complaining about that. Yeah.
it just automatically just went, oh, I haven't got like I've got very little time to sit down and enjoy games as it is. So when I do sit down and play a game, like I want to be able to
I
play that game.
totally feel that. When I do have the feeling that a game doesn't value my time I put into it, I'm
Yeah,
automatically out.
yeah,
That's just yeah, having limited time to play and to game. I feel like that's why I appreciate so much this amazing community. We have like 60 people here giving us their time, listening to us. This is
yeah.
one of the best things you can ask for is actually people lending you your time, and then that's why I want to make it worth your while. And I do hope you enjoyed the show, guys. I do hope so. um, Bavari sends in a very interesting question.
Okay.
I might rephrase it a little bit, but I first read it how he wrote it in. What's up, guys? Do you think Grounded should be getting a nomination for Game of the Year or Indie Game of the Year at the Video Game Awards this year after the game getting its full access on September 27th, just like Hades did in 2020? Have a nice day. Now, I want to add something here because we've seen it with a couple of games that just got ignored by the Game Awards, like Jedi Fallen Order, for instance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor release date. Um, after the launched after the deadline. Now this year, Jeff is moving the deadline a little bit around because one of
Yeah.
his favorite games is coming out, and that's why we can move the deadline. But yeah, so what do you think? Grounded, especially, is a good example now, coming out of early access after I want to say 2 years or so.
I think
Um,
I think it has a chance of being nominated for best ongoing game, but I
oh,
don't think it will be
interesting.
in the indie section. I think best ongoing game, absolutely, absolutely. It's had again. This is a game that has now hit over 11 million players since in being in early access for the last
Yeah.
couple of years. 11 million players is a substantial amount for a team of 20 that made
Oh
this
yeah.
game.
Yeah. True.
It's massive. But again, this major update, the official release this month, is of course 1.0. It's essentially like Minecraft-esque, the official launch of the game, after being in early access for a while now. But it brings in the full campaign, so the actual full story is complete, which is when I'm going to jump into it. I've played around with it a couple of little bits, but I haven't actually played the game properly.
Yeah.
But with the story being now fully realized, that's when I'll jump in and I'll play the story in co-op.
Yeah, me too.
Have fun. But yeah, and it's continuous updates, and they will again continue to update the game with new things, new features, new crafting, new areas. I think it's fully deserving of being mentioned within the best ongoing game,
Oh, yeah.
along with the likes of Sea of Thieves, etc. as well.
So I don't know about Grounded actually being GOTY material. Not sure. Definitely, I'm gonna jump in and into the story mode once it comes out at the end of September. Gonna go in open-minded, just like I will with Pentiment as well. But
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it's GOTY material. I find the question interesting because it brings up the discussion about the rules of the Game Awards, and I feel like I already said that in the intro, like Jeff Keighley is bending those back and forth just willy nilly, more or less, depending on his personal preference of games or platforms. And um, so I found this question really interesting, and we shall see if it will actually have at least a chance to be nominated. Good, good question. Jonathan Smith writes in. He says, "Hey guys, glad there will be a podcast this week. So obviously there have been many discussions and reports about development and culture issues within Xbox Studios over the last few days. Which brings me to ask, do you think Matt Booty needs help with managing the Xbox teams, especially with the impending addition of ABK?"
I've said this before, yes. I don't think Matt Booty will be able to handle, but again, we know the addition of ABK. Phil Spencer has said, as and when that becomes part of the Xbox family officially, they will all report to him. That's from the ABK side. So all the ABK.
But being frank, reporting to him could also mean that they have to go through Matt Booty first from the studio sides of things.
I don't believe so in this state. I think the heads of ABK will report directly to Phil Spencer.
I agree there, but
I
thing,
still
the
think,
difference
though,
is
in the grand
that
scheme
with
of things,
Bethesda, they said obviously, yeah, we let this let Bethesda be Bethesda.
yeah,
We keep their organizational structure as it is, and we see them as partners. They straight out came out with Activision Blizzard and said, that's not going to happen here. These guys are going to report to us now.
yeah.
So obviously there will be a studio head that oversees the Activision Blizzard studios. Whether that be Phil Spencer directly, I highly doubt it. So it could be that they just leave the guy in charge of supervising the studios right now.
I think the one benefit that they've got over there is that they've already got old Xbox heads of studios, now the heads of studios over at Blizzard and within Activision, etc. They've got multiple big studio heads that they trust. Which is
Rod Ferguson, obviously, and Mike Ibarra running Blizzard right now. Yeah.
But I think I still think overall Matt Booty needs help. I don't think he's coping well with the management. And again, you need, as I've mentioned before, you can't have the same approach for every studio. Some studios will need a hands-on approach. Other studios will need a hands-off. We've seen the kickoff for 343 recently, but 343 really needs one of the big higher ups to get involved now and get a real grip of that before it's too late. And it's getting to that stage. But then we see other studios like Ray, where Matt Booty's really desperate to get some footage of Fable and Everwild, and they've said, no, he's seen the game, he loves what he's seen of the games, but Ray don't want to show it because they say it's not ready to show yet. So he loves it, he wants to show it.
You mean Playground?
Absolutely
Fable.
Not.
Yeah. Playground and Fable. I'm with you. That's what a good manager does. He gets involved when he feels the need that the studio, the project leads, whatever needs it. And if everything goes well, you just let people run. At the end, the result is important. And the question as a good manager always is how to get there. For some people, that means micromanaging. You really have to go in and micromanage everything because they just can't handle them on their own. Or you just simply install someone who can do that for you. That's also always a possibility when you're in the position like a Matt Booty, or like you said, others just need or deliver good stuff. Then you can run them loose. And I feel like that's where Microsoft has a learning curve. Like you can't treat every studio the same. You can't have everywhere the hands-off mentality, and you actually have to look after your pipeline. The result is in the end what matters. Good games on a regular basis. So yeah, I mean, the thing obviously is Matt Booty head of Xbox Game Studios had a couple of years ago, 2018, 4 years ago, like 5 babies. Now he's got 23,
Yep.
and they're gonna add another 39 or so
Yeah.
to it. Um, yeah, at one point, obviously, if you like, you spend 1 week with each studio, and 2 years are already over.
Yeah.
So, uh, obviously, at some point, you have to have a different structure. The bigger your company grows, the more managers you need. And
Yeah, you need to
fun.
have kind of sub divisions
Exactly.
essentially. You
You
need to
have to
have
have subdivisions. And
like
I feel,
you deal with these studios that we've got over in the UK, then you report to Matt Booty, and then these guys you deal with in North America, you report there.
yeah,
You guys, you've got the European studios, you do that. So divvy them up into little subsections and get them guys to then report to Matt Booty.
yep,
And for instance, in
true,
certain studios in North America that might need a little bit more hands-on, then you get
yep,
one guy that is a more proficient at being that hands-on and being a little bit more deadline orientated with
yep,
those to get a bit of structure going, to really rack those into shape. And I think if you have just one guy that's kind of got control of those, I mean, you can at this point you can trust Ray to do what they need to do. You can trust Playground to do what they need to do.
yeah,
They don't need intervention. They just need someone to say, okay, if you need
yeah.
us, let
Or
us know.
Ninja Theory, or
Yeah. You don't need
for that
coalition.
matter.
You
Yeah,
don't need anybody to stand in on
yep,
them.
sure,
You don't
true.
need anybody to stand in on Arcane
Yeah,
or any of those guys. They know what they're
Double
doing.
Fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Double Fine's absolutely fine. They just needed the additional monetary support.
yep,
They've got that now. So there's a vast majority of the studios that needed, essentially, are just okay with the hands off because
yep,
they are proficient. They've proven that over time. Then there's other studios, like 343 and like the Initiative, that now need that hands-on approach. We've
yep,
seen them say, and Matt Booty's came out and said recently, "Oh no, the Initiative thing is fine. Like it's commonplace for everybody." Yeah, no one said it wasn't commonplace. Like outside of the fanboys, no one said it wasn't commonplace to work with additional studios in order to get that, because it is
yeah,
now. What we're saying is it's clearly, because it's been stated by staff that have worked there, that there are issues internally and that needs direction. Like it can't be that multiple staff have said there is an issue with the direction of the studio and there
yeah.
not be a direct, that you can't, one Mad Beauty can't come out and say there isn't an issue if multiple staff that are no longer there have said there's an issue. They-
Agree. I can't add
so,
anything. Yeah, I fully
yeah.
agree. There are 1, 2, 3 studios within the Xbox roster that definitely have an issue, and I
Mhm.
feel like um,
But it's not widespread. I
overarching
think we've seen a lot of
over no,
articles
it's not
recently as well.
widespread. I feel
Yeah.
like the overarching issue is that I feel like having what Xbox needs is obviously games on a regular cadence. So for that to have, you have to have a pipeline of games, and you have to lay out certain plans. And if you and you need to know which studios can play around. Is there a chance that I can release a game 2-3 months early, move another game 2-3 months out? And I feel like this kind of management is at the moment missing, to have that regular cadence. But granted, with the pandemic and everything, a lot of publishers are dealing with these issues. We have seen the
Yeah.
delays across the entire industry. It's not just Microsoft. Nevertheless, I've been very vocal about it being a bad thing to have like the console generation like it is. They started this generation. They didn't have a single game for the first, I want to say, 10 months or so. Then they had 2 months with game releases, and then another 15 months without anything. This is just not how you plan out your pipeline. And if delays happen, and they happen all the time, you gotta be flexible. And this flexibility is a management issue. And I think this is definitely the room to improve for Xbox. Um, I've heard someone say it on a different podcast. I can't remember who it was. So it feels like 23 is basically where they brute force content on, because eventually, obviously, all these games are going to come out.
Yeah,
It's just this question of when. Um, and brute force might not be the right phrasing, but you know what I mean. At the end, eventually, it's not a skill of management, but yeah, those games will come out. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting with in 23 when ABK comes to the Xbox roster. I've seen here in chat say Thomas say Sarah Bond is gonna be the head of ABK. I feel like Sarah Bond is gonna be the successor of Phil Spencer eventually.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But for that,
100%.
I feel like she has to have that role that Matt Booty has right now, because typically the head of Xbox Game Studios is like this position you kind of have to have
Yeah,
before you make the jump to the big chair. And she's not there yet. Um, but yeah, who knows? Could be, could be. All right, let's move to the last and final question of the day. Now, hang on. Um, Damn it! Now it scrolled again. Here we go. Waller Weasel asks, "I'm not saying Boxenberger and Pong Soul are the same person, but have you ever seen them on the podcast?" And I have very good news. Next week, you will see us both on this show, because next week we have Pong Soul as a guest. It's this ongoing thing, because, like, Pong and I, we used to be on each and every podcast we did together. And all of a sudden, whenever I'm on a show with Boom, for instance, he's got a work thing. And when um, he's on the show, I got a thing. It's like we haven't been on a show together for, like, I want to say at least 3 months or so. But good news is we will have him on here next week. And with that, I want to bring this show to an end. We are already we are already in overtime again here. But yeah, it's like just great conversations. Time flies, time flies.
it
But
does.
I want to say a big thank you to this awesome community. Um, you guys are simply amazing. The chat has been on fire. Really appreciate you all coming on here. I do hope you had a good time here. If so, definitely hit the like button on the way out, and maybe share this out on social. Let people know that we had a great conversation, not just with you guys, but of course with you, Dutch. And I want to say also a big thank you for your time and being here today. Let people know what you have coming up, and in case they don't follow you, where they can find you.
Yes, yes. So, of course, you can find me everywhere at Wondering Dutch, as usual. You can find me here every Thursday at the World of Gaming, co-hosting with, of course, the awesome Boxenberger. Every Wednesday, of course, and every Sunday, you will find me on my YouTube channel with both Midweek Mix-Up and the Weekend Edition, two very different shows. Midweek Mix-Up regular on Wednesdays is all about gaming, everything to do with gaming. On Sundays, it's everything to do with pop culture, whether that be TV series like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, whatever it is, Marvel, Halo, any TV show that's got anything to do with pop culture, as well as video games and everything in between. So it's a little bit more relaxed. This week, we are doing a live event for the Disney Marvel Showcase. So we'll be covering that, doing a live stream. I have already mentioned, though, because I know what they are like for copyright strikes. I will
Yeah.
be including sound on that, so I will have some form of background audio to go along with our reactions and commentary, just so it doesn't sound deathly quiet when we're watching some of the clips that they'll be showcasing. And I will have the subtitles on if they do offer subtitles, so at least you'll be able to hear what they're saying in those circumstances. But yes, that's where you'll find me.
Awesome stuff, man. It's kind of sad that you have to go through all these hoops in 2022 if you want to co-stream such an event. man, Marvel, Disney, they should be happy that people co-stream this stuff. But man, much appreciate the effort you put in. It's gonna be awesome, and we will discuss everything that has been announced, of course, next week here. Again, I want to say a big thank you also to the chat. You people are absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for the super chats and the channel memberships. Really appreciate the support. Truly means a lot. But for now, yeah, I want to say again, thanks. I see you guys around, and don't forget to game on.